Can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound.
Hey everyone, Rebecca Rusch here. Welcome to What's the Rush, where we actually slow down with some of the hardest charging, most impressive people on the planet. And I get them to pause and reflect, which is not always the easiest task. But for the athletes who are listening, you all know that the hard work really only sinks in and gets absorbed when you allow time to process. And so that's what we're going to do here. And today's guest, I'm so excited to talk to her. She's a rebel, a role model, and she seems to never rest, but I know for a fact that she does. Caroline Buchanan, amazing athlete. She's a two-time Olympian, eight-time world champion in BMX and mountain bike, and the first woman to land a front flip in competition. And quite literally, there's so many titles to her name that I can't really list them all. She is truly a once in a generation talent. She is calculated, holistic, fiercely positive. She's always smiling. She's always sharing kind of the BTS behind the scenes journey of what she's going through. And she has uniquely carved a path in sport and business that didn't really exist before. And she's paving the way for women and girls in sports competition and the business of sport. I really align with that. I feel like we share a lot in common in that aspect. And through all the extreme highs and lows in her amazing 20-year and counting professional athlete career, her constant through line is her passion to show people what's possible for women on two wheels, either herself or constantly pushing into new territory and evolving, and also bringing other people along for the ride through her mentorship programs and her girls programs. It's amazing. She's still competing, broadcasting on the elite level for the mountain bike stage and mentoring the next generation. So I know we talked about pausing and sitting still and slowing down. It's hard to imagine that Caroline ever does that with all that she's got going on. But we're going to dive into some of her amazing philosophies and strategies and how she's navigated this trail so far. Welcome, Caroline Buchanan.
Thank you, Rebecca. That was a massive intro.
Well, it was massive because I had so much fun getting to know you a little bit. And I so appreciate, maybe a good place to start. You're so open about sharing your journey in every way, from positive, like I'm going running, or, I've had an injury, or, just kind of what it looks like to live a professional sports career on the racetrack, but also announcing and bringing up young girls. Like, you're so open. I was really kind of taken by that, even in listening to some of your Olympic interviews and things that didn't go well. You seem to have never shied away from like just putting yourself out there exactly as you are. Is that hard for
It's
you?
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. I think I'm partly like that generation where you could become this professional athlete and like show your identity, and could become a brand, and then you could be that brand as an individual athlete and make a business out of it. And that's kind of like where I fell into my career. So I think initially, like, it wasn't in my true personality to like feel comfortable, and I hated public speaking at school. And like, I remember like I'd get red cheeks and mum would be like, okay, we'll just wear foundation today, you've got to do like an oral presentation, and like no one will see that you're blushing. And here I am doing Red Bull Rampage broadcast coming up, and I'm like, how did I get here? But no, it wasn't like, it honestly was not natural. Like, I wanted to be this BMX racer, really wanted this career. And I think in turn with BMX not having this career path for women, and my dad and mum both being in their own business and IT and marketing, they're like, well, you're gonna really have to like show up and make a career out of this and be seen and not
Yeah.
be afraid to be seen. So it was this part of, I it was quite challenging to be what I couldn't see. And
Yeah.
in that, I had to show that vulnerability and the openness and grow the sport, as well as growing my own brand, because BMX racing wasn't a mainstream sport. So yeah, it's been this kind of like wild ride that, yeah, I think the whole world's seen the ups and downs and injuries and setbacks. And I think what the difference is now, though, with this generation is with TikTok and YouTube, and it's even more seen. Like I still feel like so much of my life, like I didn't show up with YouTube series and you don't know what I eat and get ready with me and, you know, everything that this next world of challenge has as well. I was
Yeah.
still able to have, I think, that little bit to hold on to, and especially for BMX and high performance, I could still do the work, show up at races and have that surprise level of like, wow, how did Caroline level up again? Like we don't really know her true like regime of her fitness and everything she's doing. And
Yeah.
I think that was also quite important because that high performance side, you can't really show everything. So
Yeah. I mean, you're competing against, yeah, you don't want to show your competitors all the cards for sure. So I want to I mean, you started with the story of, it sounds like your parents maybe were your first business mentors in a way, that they kind of, you just wanted to shred as this little kid. You're like 9 years old, right? You turned pro at 14. You're this little kid who just wants to shred on the bike. And sounds like your parents were maybe like, hey, if you want to do this, we want to help mentor you and set you up for success, kind of as your business mentors. Is that accurate?
yeah, I think life mentors, business mentors, like they saw my passion for it. They knew, okay, like we think she's going to be an individual sport athlete because she loves gymnastics. And I was like 3 watching Nadia Comaneci's Perfect 10 documentary, like on TV, and mum's like, oh God. So, yeah, I think they luckily, like my mum and dad had quite rough upbringings and not a lot of family support. So that pain point drove them to be like, let's, you know, if our kids show talent and show interest, let's really reward them on their effort. And I think that was like the upbringing was like effort first. And because I was showing that effort and that dedication, they were like, okay, well, let's get you a personal trainer. Let's go overseas when you're 9 to the world. Let's, you know, when you reach those milestones, it was rewarded. So I learned like, okay, to get that first iPhone, I need to jump that spine at the skate park that's terrifying me. Like, Dad, at 6 a.m. before school, like, let's put the pads on and like go to the skate park. And then I got my first phone. So yeah, I think effort
You probably
effort
broke it.
driven was just like the
Yeah.
theme. Yeah, the theme of my childhood. And I think that was great mentoring because it's really allowed me to realize that that process is going to get the outcomes for like all areas of business and life and sport. And yeah, it's been quite an addictive journey, I guess you could say, and seeing just how powerful that can be.
Well, I mean, good job to your mom and dad for, recognizing a talent, but then also and giving you resources, but making you earn them, and step up. And I mean, at such a young age, that's pretty incredible for parents to know. Like, parents aren't given a guidebook, on how to do it. And so it sounds like they did a really good job of empowering you, but also pushing you, but not pushing you, into something you didn't want to be doing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. And now I'm fortunate. I moved to America for 10 years for my sport and then came back to Australia, and now I live 10 minutes down the street from them. So it's been really nice to have that, yeah, connection from being away for, a 15-year career for so long.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot too, to live in an entirely different country. I'm curious. So of your long list of so many things that you've done in your career, and I'm asking you this question because people ask me this all the time. What are you most proud of?
Ooh, I think I would say the pivot, the rebuild, um, changing my, I guess, identity. It was all within this 2-year window. So I'm most proud of, I think, that 2-year window from being a BMX racing Olympian to almost losing my life, going through 2 years of major setbacks with injuries and surgeries, struggling to know my identity, and stepping back into mountain biking, rebuilding my body, mind, soul, everything. And the door to women's freeride opened, and it was COVID. And I think I'm most proud to just invest back into myself and into the industry and say, okay, like this is an opportunity for the women. buy an airbag, buy the compound, work on a world's first front flip, fly to Germany in the middle of COVID, land that women's world first front flip at the Audi Nines, and then open up into this like free ride slope style evolution for the women. And that really was this huge pivot from like racer to freestyle athlete. And Crankworks at the same time, which is like a mountain bike world series, they aligned with that and they had speed and style, and that evolved me into being a two-time queen of Crankworks. So it just like was this huge mental pivot. It was this huge physical pivot, identity pivot, like everything. So I think that time period, like if I take titles away, it was just this like overarching 2 years of just huge shift, which I look back on now, and that was really, I guess, the whole moral of like your whole podcast. It was slowing down and stopping and having to like re-identify and rebuild that launched that, which is now, I believe, like probably one of my biggest legacy and things I'm like most proud of, is being this huge shift.
Well, there's so much in there I would love to dive into, because let's, for people who are joining us who maybe aren't mountain bikers or cyclists, you had a big career shift with BMX. So before the injury, before all this other stuff, bring us up to speed. Well, quickly, what is BMX? And then why were you shifting out of competing in BMX? You started at 9, 14, and, we're really taking the world by storm in that segment of cycling. So do you want to give us a little intro into it? And then what happened at that time that you had to pivot from that segment of the sport?
Yeah, so BMX racing is was pretty massive in the 80s, 90s. It then boomed into being an Olympic sport in Beijing 2008. I was fortunate enough to join in 2012 in London and then Rio 2016. But yeah, BMX racing, it's like a fast, extreme action sports sprint event. I started at the age of 5 and then competed all the way through to first world championships at 9, won 3 world championships. And at 15, lost a bet to a friend and had to end up going to a mountain bike event. He had to come to a BMX event, and it was like the best bet that I've ever lost. And I fell in love with mountain biking as well. And that was the time that mountain biking had a discipline called four cross, which was very similar. It was like BMX down a hill with 4 people, very similar to border cross in snowboarding. So it was a gated event, moguls, jumps, roughly sort of a minute long. And because I was that BMX racer, that was kind of my entry point between kind of, I guess, pump track and slalom and four cross. They're all these mountain bike disciplines. They're quite similar to BMX. So yeah, there was a bit of kickback at the time because I was this BMX racing Olympian that should have been just, and I wasn't, and I was completely ADHD and ran my own program and like wanted to do everything. So yeah, the Australian Cycling Federation found it quite difficult to maintain my concentration over multiple Olympic cycles. But yeah, it became this like balance for me that I would yin and yang between going to Olympics for BMX, then jumping over to mountain biking. I'd have this like reset for 2 years and then pivot back into BMX again for the next Olympic cycle to qualify. And yeah, it was really this balance. One was like high performance, one was passion and friends. And that blend was, I guess, the foundation which led me into this mountain bike career as well, was having both skill sets. And on top of that, I think for the sponsorship side and longevity in my career too, like it opened up just this wider audience and opportunities, which it's quite challenging to financially have a career in BMX. So yeah, super fortunate and glad that I didn't remain influenced by being just and sort of broke that norm and accepted that it had a few limitations and maybe some things that weren't going to be as ideal, but long term, yeah, it's been one of the greatest things that I have broadened into both worlds.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like BMX was a great launch pad, but it wasn't everything. You wanted to do more, and obviously there was more freedom and more creativity and more opportunity in other forms of cycling, and especially getting into mountain biking. And, on the cusp of, you mentioned when we were chatting beforehand, I mean, you're going to commentate for Red Bull Rampage. The women's freeride movement is alive and well and thriving right now, which is amazing. And so you're right in that whole really exciting time of growth. How
It's
was
massive for the
that?
girls.
Yeah, it's really massive. I can't wait to listen to you. I can't wait to just listen to the whole thing and watch the whole thing.
It's going to be that nice blend of being like slightly terrified for my friends and at the same time super stoked and motivated. And that is, I guess, the rawness of Rampage. It's
Yeah.
narrows down that lens because it's such high risk with the life-changing cliffs of Utah, and then you've got $100,000 in front of you if you get to the finish
Mhm.
line first. So it's this really sharp, narrowing arrow, which is addictive for a lot of action sport athletes. And yeah, it's the perfect environment just to like tap in and be, yeah, and excel. So I think for the women's side this year, it's been a bit of a 3-year journey getting to this point. And the first year in 23, it was like the pressure from the industry to get them in. And then last year was like proving to themselves they could get down the mountain,
Mm.
perform a run and like be there at Rampage. And I think the narrative this year will shift definitely into like performance.
Yeah.
They're just allowing themselves to perform. And there's 12 girls this year, so huge prop to Red Bull that they opened up this platform. And
Yeah.
yeah, massive.
It is. It definitely has. There is an arc to it now, and I think in a lot of women's sports where it's no longer, there's only one girl doing it like it was when you were a kid and when you were competing in BMX. And even now you're probably still outnumbered in the type of gravity sort of riding that you do, but you're not the only one there anymore. Like, can you talk about what it was like to have to show up and sort of push your way in, and sort of a little bit of elbows out, like, I'm here, I'm gonna compete, I'm gonna do this. Like, how was that for you to push your way in when you were the first in so many places?
Yeah, it's amazing now because the narrative's changed, and it's like I almost see it's more, there is almost greater opportunity of being a female in this industry and this
Yeah.
space right now for sponsorships and opportunity and events,
Yeah.
which is super exciting because yeah, that wasn't the story when I was growing up. But I really think that it was what strengthened me as a person because I raced the boys. I Up
Mhm.
until 11, I was still racing the boys. I was in the mix. I had to learn, I think, the marketing side of influencing brands like Harley Davidson and going to them and saying, hey, like, this is your demographic. We're now in this world of marketing and social media. You're using men to try and influence buyers on the men's side to purchase bikes. But hey, actually, like, these are my numbers, and look, like, I'm an action sport girl, and my target demographic is 85% males in your age bracket
Yeah.
because they love, action sport and a girl, and like,
Yeah.
this is just a different perspective. And then they were like, oh no, actually you're right. So hey, like, we want you to, be on the cover of Harley Owners Group and launch this bike at the time they had coming out for learner legals, because they're like, oh, this is great, like, we've got this new bike, it's probably more suited to women, girls that are smaller, you've never rode, let's document the whole journey, like, let's get your motorbike license. And I think, yeah, like, I had to learn to just evolve and like, what is marketing and like, what is this space, and how can I, instead of be, I guess you could say, like, that victim mentality and be like, oh, it's so hard and there's no money in the industry, I was like, all right, right, challenge accepted, like, let's go out of industry, let's get 16-year partnerships with Oakley, let's get Harley Davidson. I don't see like a girl on the cover of Wheat Bix and these like cereal companies, and like, I put on the wall and I'm like, Dad, this is gonna happen one day, and then boom, I'm on the cover of a cereal company for 2 years. So yeah, it was like
Love
not setting limiting beliefs. I was just like, this sucks. And it was like super hard. And especially as a 14-year-old girl, like,
that.
not making money. I went to my first Olympic Games. My biggest bike sponsor was $7,000. I was still getting supported by mum and dad. Like, I didn't have assets. I didn't have a house. I was multiple world champion. Like, all these things. I moved to America, like mum and dad bought me a house. It was just,
Mm.
yeah, like it was not easy back then, but I think that fueled the fire to be like, okay, where are these doors and how can I navigate my way through, and not just for me, but through Ignite and for the girls, and like, yeah, like let's do this together. So it's been fun.
I mean, it definitely takes individuals like you to sort of push and create a new path, but then it's such a relief when it works and then you finally have some other friends and other women that you can see and be like, "Oh my gosh, now I have some support," and you don't feel all so alone. I mean, that's something that I feel now at this point in women's sports is I know I'm not alone anymore. I mean, I wasn't ever totally alone, but you feel quite isolated when you don't see more people like you. Like you said, you can't, it's hard to be what you can't see. And it feels like now it's sort of like it's almost the next level of creativity and what female athletes are going to do. The next door is opened to for performance, for creativity, for how they're going to create their businesses. Do you feel that way? Like you've got
Yeah.
people on your side now and it's not as hard?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think because there are more avenues and more opportunities, like the women and girls these days can be themselves and can go, all right, well, I could do, racing, or I could go into the World Cup scene or crankworks, or I could be free ride or cross country or cyclocross. Like just there is so many avenues. And then within that, each direction, there is also like multiple ways that you could ride for teams or brand yourself or like be this individual, or like it's so cool to see that there are all these options now.
Yeah. Well, you help create a lot of them. So, I mean, great job with that. I would love to go back to that, your biggest achievement that you articulated, and also what sounds like was your biggest challenge of a career pivot. And then so you decided to make the career pivot, and then the accident and injury happened after you were already partially pivoting into a new discipline. Is that right?
Yeah, it was on the same time that I was actually interesting, the timing of it all, because I think the universe provides you with great feedback.
Hmm.
And I was a multiple world champion BMX mountain biking. I was racing in BMX. I'd done 2 Olympic games, but never actually won a medal at the Olympics. So had messed up my starts and had a crash from 2 Russians at the Rio Olympics. And I decided for Tokyo. It was like completely out of a ego perspective. I was like, okay, I want to go and race BMX, but also like freestyle BMX was coming at the time. And I'm like, perfect. In my ADHD personality, I was like, do it all. And thought that I would be able to achieve both. And then got this like huge accident and injury, um, rolled under a like Can-Am down a fire road from a friend, and managed to like save my life, but it broke my sternum, punctured my lungs, a double pneumothorax in my lungs, punched my heart wall, broke my nose. And that next 2 year period was like completely rebuilding, multiple sternum reconstructions, the plates snapped, the bolts pulled out, bit of experimental surgery in the US, was cash paying it all, was looking at like $91,000 like bills on the table, and just fortunately I was in this position of my career of going, okay, like I've not only built my brand, I built me as a business. So like this is a huge part of my business that's taking a hit right now financially. And within that, I was like, okay, I'm not going to go back to the Olympics for 2 sports. Like that is off, this is now off the table, this goal. And I was like, okay, if I can aim to get back for the 2020 Olympics for BMX racing, if I could potentially even think about building my body back to be ready for that, um, be under the squat bar with 150 kilos and all of the strength requirements it takes to do that, I was like, if I fail or don't get to that achievement point, I knew like, well, I'm going to have the physical ability to pivot and the mental strength to pivot into wherever I can from that point on. And
Chose this
that was,
far out was that what was the timing of when you had the accident, like those horrific surgeries to the 2020 Olympics? That was your sort of carrot you were dangling. What was the timeline from
The
that?
timeline was accident was New Year's Eve 2017. So
Okay.
then 18, 19, that 2 year window was the 3 sternum reconstructions, and the recovering from that. And then the rebuild really only started within sort of 3 to 6 months coming into what was meant to be the 2020 Olympics.
Yeah.
So yeah, luckily 2020 was then pushed a
Mhm.
year because of COVID. I went to a World Cup qualifier in Italy and attempted to get in, but just I didn't mentally. Like, I was always this racer that was really great out in front, out of trouble. And all of a sudden I was a pack racer, and the sport had changed in 2 years. And despite getting back to where I was where I was, not where the industry was now. So yeah, I was in the mix and just it wasn't enough to qualify. And that was when the free ride world opened up. And, I think I had to really reassess at that time, like those choices of thinking about going to the Olympics for 2 sports. And I mentioned, like, when I really evaluated, that was quite ego driven. I got to that point as well and was like, okay, like the universe is like, I've had these injuries, I've had these setbacks, I've had this huge, crazy 2 year window. Um, what is it that I want to achieve that isn't, from an outcome perspective? What has more purpose? What has more depth? What makes me happy and excited? And that was this whole freeride world. So it was actually like this really nice, like, flow into this space of mountain biking because I put my L plates back on. And that was such a crazy thing to do as like an elite high performing athlete, to go, I'm okay putting my learners on. Like, I'm going to have to fail again. I'm going to have to like look silly doing it. I'm going to have to show all my weaknesses. I'm going to have to slow down. I'm going to like, I'm going to have to learn to crash again and be okay with that. Like, physically, because I felt so fragile for 2 years. And I was just like, all right, let's start Muay Thai. Let's get into fighting. Let's learn to crash. Let's figure this thing out.
Caroline, no, I mean you weren't necessarily expected to live through all of this, let alone get back to being a competitive athlete. So, I mean, you surprised a lot of people, I think, one, by surviving the 3 surgeries. I think I read something that was like there was a 50-50 chance on each of them because it was so experimental. And so
Yes.
you lived, which is an achievement in itself, but then I'm trying to imagine what those 2 years were like for you and the people closest to you, of really struggling to survive and to get your body back, and to wonder, like, who am I, if what will I be, if you've been a athlete for your whole life. It's all you knew since 9 years old. So
Yes.
what was the mindset and kind of the people close to you and your day to day during that super hard recovery?
It was, gosh, my parents, they've been there from the beginning, and I think they were actually the hardest ones. Like, I was back in Australia for those surgeries initially, and then went over to the US, and like mum and dad were back and forward and helping me out. And so I think for them, it was probably quite the most challenging because I'm their daughter, and like, you take the performer away. And,
Yeah.
for my sponsors, I was the athlete, I was that machine, the marketing figure. Like, but for my parents, I was their daughter. So it was like very different. I think around me at the time, which was actually quite interesting, like my friendship circles, my relationship partner at the time, like, I went through a full clean house, like clean out, like spring cleaning after that point. I realized by like slowing down that I didn't actually have the greatest nurturing team around me from a human perspective. Amazing to be this performing athlete. Like, when you're a performing athlete, you're harsh on yourself a lot of the time. You're not very kind. Like, you can be very tough, eat, sleep, train, repeat, and not having emotional intelligence from that feminine perspective as a performing athlete. It is such a strength. Like, it is so easy to perform as an underdog, sometimes it is easier to perform when you're completely like so self-critical and bashing yourself and like the world stops spinning if I don't win today mentality. You can perform time in, time out, year after year, 1 world title, 2, 8, 7, it's never enough. But stopping and slowing down in that accident and then realizing like, hang on a minute, like I need nurture, like I need to be this human, I need to have feminine energy, like wow, I don't have this in my circle, and realize like, okay, this is going to be the biggest spring cleaning thing of my life. And, got out of quite a fast marriage divorce quite quickly, changed some of my best friends, moved back to Australia, and yeah, really went down this journey of like, how can I lead from the bench? And one of the best books I ever read was about that, about Wolfpack and the US Olympic soccer team and how she led from the bench. So I turned up at the Sea Otter, I turned up at races, I figured out with my sponsors and got a new marketing agency at the time, wrote kids' books, dived into like a signature kids bike, like realized really like how this whole industry works and how can I be involved in that and have impact without crossing the line with my arm in the air being like another world title, another world title. Yeah, so I think that was like the biggest shift of people around me through that point. Was the biggest change, if that answered the question.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. What I'm hearing you say is that, as far as you as a human, you sort of started to develop a more holistic approach to you as a human being, and if you think of the human performance model, it's not just the skill of an athlete, it's also their mindset, their spirituality, the community that's around them, their personal health, their financial health, all sorts of things. And yeah, maybe you're strong in some areas, but it sounds like maybe you identified some areas that maybe needed some more development. And I'm curious, was that kind of self-guided? Were you just like, I need to clean house with my friends, I recognize these people aren't supporting me? Or like, how were you sort of coming to all of these realizations while you were sort of sitting in a chair recovering,
Yeah.
not outside, not riding your bike?
Yeah. Well, I think slowing down and stopping and being like I was a T-Rex, like I couldn't push doors open. I'd like kick them over my feet. I was like, couldn't put my hands above my head for months because like you
Oh.
can't brace a sternum. You can't put it in a sling or like, so I couldn't really open my chest. It was meant to be as locked as possible for months. So I was able to go on walks and I would do these like long meditation walks, like through like the mountains, like by myself in Southern California. And that was just all the moments of like, wow, like I'm so like the word depressed, anxiety. Like I went to a doctor and was like, I'm having like terrible thoughts. Like I don't know my identity. Like I don't like, what do I do? And luckily he was an amazing doctor and he was like, look, I want you to focus on these next 3 things for the next 2 weeks. And he goes, if nothing changes, come back to me. We'll put you on medication. But I really want you to focus on this. And I was like, okay. So he was like, wake up every day, see the sunrise. I want you to do gratefuls every morning. I want you to communicate with people you don't know, like start conversation, start connection. So, then I'm like talking to nurses and like people that are changing my wound dressings. And I'm like, all right, I need to talk to you. I need to connect with you. Like, what's your story? I need to be grateful. Tell them I'm grateful. Like, I had this thing from this doctor, and I would like wake up, watch sunrise, watch the sunset. And I did this for 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, I was like, man, how good's the world? How good do I feel? This is awesome. Like, went back to him. I was like, yeah, I don't need medication. I'm just going to like stick on this path. Like, I've realized how friggin' powerful that was just in itself. And, I think at the time, like the athlete mindset, which is normally was so in overdrive of like strength, sprint, recovery, food, nutrition, like this is my training program. Because I couldn't do all of that, it went into overdrive as to like, all right, well, what's my weaknesses?
Mm,
Let's go to like a Buddhist meditation retreat. Like, let's get uncomfortable. Let's like lock myself in for a week. Like,
yeah.
mum dropped me off at the gate and she's like, I can pick you up whatever you want, but I think this is going to be great for you. So I went on this like 90% noble silent like Buddhist retreat and learnt all their practices and read books, showed up at events, was helping my sponsors, was selling hats for Fast House at the time, went to Sea Otter and signed Trek and signed all these long-term brands that I'm with now. And just that same thing, connecting with people, the relationships, like finding out like how what other people need and what the industry needs and just being more like open-minded. So yeah, that was the recipe that
I mean, kudos to that doctor for, not choosing the easy way out by giving you antidepressants, but to give you natural antidepressants, which, yeah, are seeing the sun and talking to people, having connection, and reminding ourselves of gratitude. It sounds so simple and it kind of sounds really cliche, but I love, like, I can hear you so purpose driven and like give you a checklist and you're going to
yeah.
challenge and you're going to do it. And so I love that you went and you followed the doctor's orders exactly to a T. And then you had the sort of athlete awareness of yourself to be like, oh, yeah, that really worked. Okay, I'm going to lean into that more. I mean, that's one is special that the doctor did that, but also pretty unique that you had the physical and emotional intelligence to be like, oh, okay, this is working. I mean, that's pretty great. And putting yourself in uncomfortable situations that weren't physically uncomfortable situations, but were emotionally uncomfortable, like a silent retreat. That, I mean, talk about risk taking, from taking it from an athletic level into a emotional and spiritual level. I mean, not a lot of people would go there.
Yeah.
With the kind of
Well,
injury that you had.
I think when you're like so in that low point, and
Mm,
for me, I was like, there's nothing else. Like I can't do my sport. I don't know if like I was looking at V8 supercars and like maybe I'm gonna become a driver. Like, if I can't race again, like what am I gonna do? And like just completely having like a mental breakdown, identity crisis, like not having adrenaline, not having that thing that kept me focused. So yeah, it's kind of pushed me into that spiritual place. And I also had this other, I printed it off, which I wanted to chat about. I had this other great like Red Bull trainer at the time, and his name's Nam Baldwin, and he works with surfers and different athletes. And he was doing like a lot of mindset training with me at the time. And for, yeah, anyone, I guess, wanting to like establish their career or their business to a deeper level, or any athletes or anyone going through a hard time, it just works in general. But he was like, okay, Caroline, like I really want to nail in your why. Like
mhm.
you're
Yeah.
at this place of questioning everything, like let's dial into like your why in life. And then when you go through like future injuries, when you have to question things, like when life gets hard or you have to make a sponsorship decision or whatever it is, um, you'll be so unshakable because you've got so much clarity with why you're doing what you're doing. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So my why, I'll just quickly share it with you. It's dot
Yeah.
point driven. So it's like not in any order. It's just like dot points. My why is I believe I was put on this earth to elevate action sport, bridge the gap in female action sport, to live out my talents for myself and for the world, that I'm guided and protected, that riding keeps me present in this life. I love the struggle and I love the competition. To leave a legacy as a legend, a champion, and one of the most accomplished, respected action sport female athletes. I'm a cycling generational talent. I have an income stream for me, my freedom as a female, and my future and my family. To uphold high standards and morals. To base accomplishments off pride and not effort, off pride and effort, not results. To invest back into me, women in sport, continuously provide inspiration, build momentum and education. To inspire through action and lead by example, to be what I couldn't see. I care, I'm making a difference in the world, and I do this because I fucking love it. And that was like on my wall every day. And on top of that, like I learned to do that through tapping as well. So
Mhm.
telling myself that and tapping through it in that transition from BMX to freestyle and doing world first front flips and learning to crash, like telling myself and my body those things was part of this whole process of like rewiring and having this like unshakable belief in my why and what I'm doing allowed me to learn these tricks and superwomans and, you know, they used to be supermans and now they're superwoman seat grabs and things that like I managed to do in crankworks. And when I would sit up there and I'd be terrified, I'd be like, all right, I'm about to drop in and do this front flip. I'd be like, I'm living out my talents, myself for the world. I do this because I fucking love it. And even if I'm like pissed off or I'm like, you know, completely scared at the time, like I just reinforce
Yeah.
this is my why, this is what I'm doing. Yeah, so that to Nam Baldwin that like explained that to me and helped me shape what that why was,
Yeah.
and then dial it in, like it's insanely powerful.
Was it hard for you to, I mean, that's a beautiful statement. And I love that there's, you know, you're measuring pride and effort and giving back and joy and love and playfulness. And was it hard for you to get that onto paper and write that down?
Yeah.
Yeah, like how did
Oh yeah, 100%. Like me to
because
grow
you
up and to
hear, oh,
be,
what's your why? I mean, you hear it all the time. And then
yeah,
pretty big, robust why. So yeah, like how did you birth that? Because it seems like you
yeah,
had to birth it.
100%. Like it was, if initially at the time, like my why, I'd be like, because I'm an action sport athlete. Like I'm
Right,
just this BMX world champion. I've never
right.
won Olympics. Like my why is to win a gold medal. Like that was my entire focus. But I think because of the timing and how challenged I was physically, mentally, spiritually, and how much I had to just wait for 2 years,
Mhm.
um, that made me have this like greater holistic approach to that time period and to life. And yeah, he was great. He challenged it. He said, okay, well, was missing a few things. Like,
Mm.
what about spiritually? And I was like, oh, back to the drawing table. It was like, okay, I'm like, what about passion? And I was like, back to the drawing board. Like, so it was really like, nah, I'm helping dig a little deeper,
Yeah.
to bring that out of me in all areas and have this thing. And he's like, okay, do you feel like it's full and whole? And, you know, even whole from the perspective of like, things that I didn't have at the time, but it was almost manifesting the future. It was the want, not what I had. Like I didn't have financial freedom at the time for my future family and me as a female and all these things. But he's like, you want that. So like let's
Yeah.
start engaging in that now. Yeah, like credit to him. And anyone, I just totally believe like get uncomfortable,
Mhm.
challenge it holistically and broadly, and write it down, and taking it that one step further and like recording my own voice saying it and kind of tapping through it and like listening to it when I was driving on the way to like the skate park to
Yeah.
learn bar spins or whatever it was at the time. Like
Yeah.
I just listened to it because like I'm like, ugh.
I mean, there's a lot of therapy techniques that you brought in. I want to mention, you talked about tapping, which is for people who might not know, it's a somatic therapy. And so somatic therapy is where you're connecting your brain and your body. So you might be tapping in these specific areas that are scientifically backed to like access your nervous system. And so what you're saying is then being absorbed by your body. Or there's another tactic called therapy called havening, where you're like rubbing your arm and it's basically telling your nervous system that you're okay and that you're safe. And so what I love that you are putting together the mind and the body, because so many of us, they're like, oh, I need to define my mission statement or my why, but then disconnecting the mind and the body, and they're not disconnected, as you found out, and you really developed that side of you. But yeah, for anyone listening, the mind and body go together, which is why I believe sport is such a beautiful arena to learn. But yeah, when it's taken away, you know, when your one thing is taken away, then there's still a whole rest of the person to develop. And I love how now you're bringing them both together, you know, mind, body, spirit. And I'm curious in this evolution of you, as an athlete, are you a better athlete now because of that huge pause, that waiting game, that uncertainty? How are you different as an athlete? I won't even say better. How are you different as an athlete now?
More efficient is probably a good way to put it. Like mentally efficient as well. Like didn't go through these crazy roller coasters. It was, I'd come into races and I'd just be like, all right, here's the process and here's my why. And I don't have to like stress. I'll work my breathing until that red light goes in the gate. Boom, world title. Damn, that was so much easier. Like, how did I mess up? Like, how did I choke at the Olympics? How did I get shaken when I looked at David Beckham on the start line and I like choked the gate? Like, how'd that even happen? Like, now it's so easy. So I think like the efficiency and just like the being kinder to myself and that whole, I guess, nurturing process became better. But then the outcomes and having this like capacity, I think my foundation became strong as a person, which meant my foundation became strong as an athlete.
Mm.
So then I had the capacity to go into freestyle, to go into freeride, to say, yeah, I want to win the Queen of Crankworks title. This is 4 stops around the world, 5 bikes, 28 events. And, I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to travel with 4 bikes, 150 kilos of baggage. And like, yeah, I don't have SRAM or any of these brands, like being my mechanic at the time. Like, I'll work it out. I'll be fine. And just that like ease of going, this is huge, but I'm not like making it to this massive thing in my mind. Just back to my process, broke it down, prepared.
Mm.
What's my why? Just like came in and then like had the support of the people that I needed around me. And yeah, so I think the what changed was like, yeah, this foundation was stronger.
Yeah, and it sounds like so much more awareness of yourself, so much a better what you needed in a team. And you touched on something that I think is really important to underline is that the body doesn't really know the difference between emotional stress and physical stress. It's all stress. And so you can have training stress, you're going to the gym, you're doing stuff and you're exhausted, and then you come home and you have a fight or you're not relaxed or you're worried about your finances or your work or your sponsors. Like all of a sudden you're working out, your nervous system is working out on high alert all day and it never gets a break. And so you having the mindset tools, it sounds like maybe it's allowing your body to absorb the training, the travel, all of the other things in a better way because you're able to manage your nervous system a little bit better by shutting it down, relaxing, using
Yeah.
tools. Is that accurate?
Yeah. No, that is completely accurate. And I think like also what you touched on before about as an athlete, sport forces you to kind of bridge the two worlds of like mind, spirit, body, everything together.
Mhm.
Because you want that result and you want that consistency and you want to be able to do it time and time again. So you learn from yourself and that performance model. It gives you that feedback. And I think the other great thing that sport does is it gives you permission to like have self-care and to look after yourself because if you're not in the best condition, you're not going to perform. So I think that's flowed on into like now my career with like the choices I make towards business and my life as well. It's like I've been so fortunate to have this career which allows you to have self-care and allows you to take time and um continuing to have that like little bit of athlete mindset to give yourself permission because yeah, it's hard. The world tells you to be more, do more, don't sleep, like slow down, like you
Yeah.
know you need to buy this, you need to do this, you need to be everything, have that big house. But that athlete model is really like strong to remind yourself what's actually
You're
needed.
speaking my language because I've developed a framework that exactly what you're saying that we know as athletes. I call it the athlete operating system. And it's basically the framework for performance that is tried and true with athletes, but taking it into all areas of your life, and it includes rest and recovery, and it includes goals, and it includes coaches and teammates and structure and all that kind of stuff. I'm a little behind you in my forced pause that has happened from a concussion that was almost exactly 4 years ago. Easy mountain bike ride, took a crash, and it ended up having some really long-term concussion symptoms and not finding good help right away. But a similar journey to yours in like, if I'm not a competing athlete, what is my worth and what is my why? And I'm a little further. I'm not quite as far down along the trail as you are, but in the same process of mindset, mindfulness, writing down, what I love, what's my value. And I love that the other part of your shift was you looking at, you didn't want to leave the sports business, even if you never compete again. You're like, I have these relationships, these partners. I still have value to write a book, to teach young girls, to be at trade shows, to be a commentator. So I love that you didn't give up on your sport, even if competition never came back. It did come back for you, but you opened this whole, like you became more holistic as a human and more holistic really as a business person, which it's really inspiring me to sit and think about your journey and how we can all define our own value, even if it looks different than we thought it might look, that there's still value in the life experiences that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah,
a little rambly
exactly.
way of me saying you're really inspiring me to kind of pushing on my journey. Cause yeah, I had an abrupt stop that wasn't planned either. But like you, I fucking love this stuff and I want to stay in sport and I believe in it. And I want to inspire other women and other athletes and get people out exploring. So we have a very similar mission. And yeah, I'm going to go write down some things after we
Dial in that why.
that I have
Yeah.
actually, it's been really cool. So I love hearing yours. Uh,
Concussions are, yeah, extremely challenging. I have had a lot over my career, and yeah, there's some really good neuro chiros and different neuro people around the world. And yeah, I did a 3-month extensive program with a guy in Melbourne, and he was amazing, like
awesome.
connecting my eyes and vision and drills and balance and vestibular. It's like all connected. And yeah, I was at the point too that I was like, man, I'm dizzy, I'm getting vertigo when I'm driving, like I'm irritable, like I just had quite a few concussions. I'm like, I'm not myself. And yeah, those resources, when you actually dive into who they are, there's some really good ones in Switzerland. There's some great ones in America. And yeah, we have this guy in Australia in Melbourne. So yeah, if anyone struggling with concussions, like
Yeah, well, I
take
mean, I
that
have a
time.
resource list I put together exactly for that reason. So I'd love to add some of your people because, quite
Awesome.
honestly, it's any injury or any setback. It's like finding the right team of support. Like you said, having the right teammates and having the right people around you who really have your back, whether it's a caregiver or whether it's a medical professional or a friend, having the right group of people who are going to lift you up instead of create more drama or stress in your life.
Yeah, no,
So
exactly. We'll add that. His name is Brett Giroz in
awesome.
Melbourne.
We'll put
Yeah.
him in. I want to talk about some of your mantras because I like every time I have listened to you talk, it's like you're so positive and you're so energetic. And even when we talk about the hardest 2.5 years of your life, you're still like such you seem so strong and you've got these great mantras that you use that I've heard quite a few of. I wonder if you have some favorite just kind of mindset mantras that help you. And again, if we go back to maybe talk about why a mantra is important or why you like to, say certain things in your head and how that helps you. You want to dive into that for a minute?
Yeah, definitely. Well, growing up in BMX, I always had a few, like I had on the back of my number plate, I would be like, Caroline, your time to shine,
Hmm.
which when I was like really positive, it would be like, your time to shine. It was like CYTS. And
Uh-huh.
then when I was more like pissed off, it was like, commit, you're the shit, Caroline. Like, come on. Like, so it had multiple meanings, but that was like the back of my number plate. And I just like kept showing up. But then that evolved throughout, I guess, like the injuries and setbacks more into this too shall pass.
Mm.
And that was, I guess, I would say now probably like a 5-year mantra of just this too shall pass from the meaning of pain, but also from the meaning of like glory.
Yeah.
It was like entrusting every day that like this chapter of my life is going to pass. This pain's going to pass. This surgery is going to pass. But also like that world title is going to pass, or that good thing, or that high is going to pass too. And like when these highs and lows pass, like what's this mid?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this too shall pass, I'd say, is probably like the most solid continuing mantra.
Yeah, and even like I love that it's like living in a beautiful moment, appreciating it because it's fleeting and that moment's going to end too. Even if it's good, it's not being a Debbie Downer, but it's like, oh, I'm going to live in this moment because it's really amazing and I'll look back at this time as, a highlight. And I had someone tell me a similar thing when I first started adventure racing, which were these week-long, jungle tracks and stuff like that. She she was kind of my mentor and she said, well, just remember, no matter how good or bad you feel, it won't last. And I was sort of like, I thought about that, but that was 20 years ago. And I still think about that. Whereas even as an athlete, you feel really good. You're like, okay, I still need to hydrate. I still need to take care of myself. But also if you're feeling bad, that will pass too. As long as you take care of yourself, you keep going. So it's kind of similar as this too shall pass. But
Yeah. Do you have a mantra?
One of the ones that's really become resonant with me is Be Good. And that is the name of my foundation and how my father signed all of his letters home from the
Oh
war
yeah,
to our family. I think you saw that in the film.
I
And
did.
I think about it a lot. It didn't really hit me until I went on that ride and I think about it and it's like, it's not be perfect. It's not like be exceptional. It's like be good. And it's so simple, but I kind of take that as being kind and good to myself, but also to everyone else around me. And if I'm not perfect, that's okay too. I sort of like think about, well, what would my dad say if he was here? He'd be
You
proud
did.
and he'd be good. So
Yeah.
that's one that has resonated with me. I thought of one that I heard from you that I've been thinking about lately, especially when I was late for this podcast or we had our time zones mixed up. And I thought of one of yours is like, how you do anything is how you do everything, or how you.
Oh, it's a good
And
one
I was
too.
like, uh-oh, I'm not like, really on track for this. So does that mean how I do anything is how I do everything?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Another one is you can't be good at everything.
Well,
That's
there
another
you
good
go. But
saying.
we try. I used to try to be good at everything.
Yeah.
Um, I,
No, it's awesome.
yeah, how you do anything is how you do everything. But I really like that about just, you know, focus and excellence and trying hard in whatever it is you're doing, no matter how big or small it is. I think,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think the one for me, how you do anything is how you do everything, was going back to that time period of building myself as like a brand and building the level of the sport in BMX and having, like, I invested my own money into doing a whole World Cup series documentary, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna like go to the World Championships, 7 World Cup stops. I want to win, but man, like I really need to get the name of BMX out there. So like I looked at airlines and thought, how do I get this story onto like airlines and entertainment? And so I went to IMG and pitched it, and like I was like, okay, now I'm really back against the wall. Like I don't earn much money. I want to win this like overall World Series, and now on top I've got IMG like following me for like KLM Airlines and all these things. Great pressure. Pressure is a privilege, and like I managed to achieve all of this. But yeah, like the level and the struggles of like building the sport, I had to remind myself like how you do anything is how you do everything. How you color coordinate like your kit and represent your sponsors, and those like little attention to detail moments, like that's something that's everything. And the next, how you look after your body and train, eat, sleep, everything, how you do that is how you do everything. So yeah, like it's just that reminder of like, if you expect to wake up and like don't nourish your body and your food and don't make your bed and not talk kind to your partner and then think you're going to go and win a world title, it's like that doesn't align. That's
Yeah.
so how you do it, everything is how you do anything. It's kind of like all Yeah.
Just as there's not a separation between mind and body, there's not a separation between like your work life and your home life, or it's your life. It's all blended together. So yeah, you can't go perform in this field and then come back and be an asshole in this field. I mean,
Yes.
your stories really make me think of like you really put the professional and professional athlete, like you treat it as a profession, which is amazing. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you're so lucky, or oh, you get to, and yeah, there is some luck and there is opportunity and privilege, but the what I'm most proud of in my career is longevity, and I know that you are proud of that as well in your career of being in the sports industry for a long time. And that doesn't happen if you don't treat it like a profession and you don't adapt and you don't evolve and change and look for opportunities. And you're such a master of that. Even now you're doing it again with the broadcasting and
Yeah.
for
I'm in another big growth period at the moment, which it's funny you're like, oh, it's such a professional. Like that's my next business. Yeah, like the I think the greatest thing that I've learned through all of this was it was so hard to be a professional athlete in a sport that didn't exist to be a professional athlete. Like it was amateur sport, was an Olympic sport, and then now we are here with women's freeride and all these opportunities. But because I had to build it, hustle, navigate my way through, be this Caroline Buchanan brand, it's taught me some great lessons. And those sort of 27 contracts a year is strength. And this next chapter, which I'm waiting on trademarks and things at the moment, so I'm feeling a bit slowed down, but is evolving into like masterclass education.
love it.
And it is all on how to be a professional athlete and the roadmap and the steps and the tips and the tricks, not just from myself, but from friends in the industry, from brand leaders in the industry. And that's for all sport. And a reason like I really wanted to do that was because my scholarships, which have put like $150,000 back into women in sport, have had a bit of a stall. And like I love it and I just get so much passion and excitement from it, but philanthropy money is getting harder. So I was like, okay, I need to drive a business that gives back to scholarships, and like how do I do that? So yeah, this next evolution of Ignite is opening up. The goal is 6 months, so I'm going to put it out there, but it could be 12. um yeah, is these masterclass educations that feed into scholarships, and then also have like summits and events, and then we'll sponsor athletes as well, a little bit like that Red Bull helmet model to promote this as well,
Oh my
because
God.
it's a gap. Like I see it as a gap in the industry, and I've managed to navigate it with a bit of struggle.
Yeah.
And I do feel fortunate. I do feel lucky, but I know what it's taken, and I see
Yeah.
a lot of kids now growing up struggling how to navigate this world and to be a performer on and off the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I mean,
navigate the
there's
world
no
of
one
no
better.
budget.
Yeah, no one better to teach that than you. And if you ever need a guest instructor or anybody to contribute, like I get it. I wish I had a program like that when you probably wish you had a program like that to sort of help educate you as you're trying to navigate, without a trail map. So, all right, well, fingers crossed for trademarks, and we will spend on that masterclass programming. I mean, I feel like I could take the masterclass and learn from you as well.
You'll have a module within it.
Okay, so because this is called What's the Rush, we've dabbled a little bit into it, but the last question is what are you currently, maybe that we haven't talked about, is there anything you're currently trying to edit or stop or slow down in your life?
It's being patient
Mm,
through this. Like I'm in a bit of a growth stretch from diving into broadcast with Red Bull Rampage coming up, going from being in a field reporting, which is interviewing,
yeah,
now into Red Bull putting me on more of the panel, so more of like a co-color analyst
yeah,
opportunity. So leveling up and saying yes and doing the research and everything. So feeling that growth from broadcast,
mhm,
continuing to like uphold the 27 contracts for my own business of cycling and promoting and brands. And coming into another season, I guess, strong for Crankworks and Sea Otters and events. And then realizing that, like I've got this amazing platform and opportunity and extreme passion and like pull towards Ignite. So yeah, like launching that business, which I hope carries me into the next 5 to 10 years. So yeah, I'd say at the moment I am struggling with like patience, that I don't have the capacity to do it all and need some people, need to expand into like getting some more people to help me. But yeah, I would say that's kind of right now is just this little patience like point.
Yeah, patience is hard, and especially when you have a vision and you can see where something needs to go or you want it to go, but you don't quite yet have the team or the structure around it. So we'll breathe with you and do some tapping, and we'll manifest that for you. Because yeah, I can't wait to see the next evolution. But also this present evolution is pretty great, Caroline. I've loved talking to you so much.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. I'm glad that we managed to lock it in. I was like, no, we can do this. We can pull our calendars together.
We did it. Yeah, it was hard, but it was such a gift and a joy. And I hope this is the beginning of maybe a longer term collaboration. And we will all be watching you commentating at Red Bull Rampage coming up. So thanks again for being here. And for everyone listening, thank you for being here. This was another really fun episode of What's the Rush. We'll put all of Caroline's goodies in the show notes with Ignite and how you can find her. And also a reminder, review, send us a testimonial, share the episode, and most of all, be good.
Hey, it's a long and dusty road and a hot and heavy load. Folks I meet ain't always kind. Some are bad, some are good, some have done the best they could. Some have tried to ease my troubling mind. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound.